This is the CryEngine Programming Lecture Series at SNHU. I'm Tom Adamson, visiting professor, and this lecture is a very short one. This lecture is about CryEngine flow graph programming. This is lecture 5, and this is topics in game design. This is about the topics that we're going to be covering in this lecture series and the reason why we selected these topics. So if you bear with me on this. This lecture will cover what class nodes will be presented in this series and the reasons for their selections. If you recall, we talked about in the previous lecture all the different class nodes that were available and all the different nodes that were available on top of that. So what we're going to talk about is the selection criteria that we've used. We have to remember that developers of game editors, such as this one, Cry Technologies, have the right to make major changes in their product, especially with this one where they allow people to use it for free for non-commercial purposes, which is wonderful. However, they cannot make changes to the topics that you cannot change or change very little over time. So let's see what those topics are. Examples would be of the topics that change very little or don't change at all would be math, logic, physics, 3D space, and other basic building blocks of these advanced technologies. Included in this, of course, would be the concepts of XML documents and their related topics, as well as approaches to the design and development of game logic systems. Now, we talked about these approaches in the previous lecture. So, obviously, those are the topics we're going to cover. Now, here's an important distinction. We are lectures. However, do keep in mind this is a series of lectures. This is not a series of tutorials. The difference between a lecture and a tutorial is that a tutorial shows you how to do something, where a lecture explains why you do it that way. Hence, tutorials are presented for the technicians to apply, while lectures are meant for the professionals to understand. From understanding comes designing and creating, from which the technical are taught to apply. So keep in mind, these are not tutorials, these are lectures, and please see the distinction that I'm making between the two. So with all this in mind, these are now our considered topics. I will devote the majority of this lecture series to the fundamental topics of game logic systems, starting with the following. First, the structure and applications of XML documents. The reason for that is not only because the CryEngine uses the XML format to store all of its flow graphs, but also XML documents are used for many other applications in game logic design. We will discuss the debug node class, obviously, because we emphasized that in the previous lecture, the time node class, the actor node class, the input node class, the logic node class, the math node class, the 3D vector, which they call vec3 node class, the physics node class, the string node class, and various topics of the UI class, such as the dialog class. Now, with all that said, since these lectures are kept intentionally short, it may take more than one lecture to cover a single topic. Once these fundamentals are covered, then we can explore those topics that tend to be exclusive to this Cry game editor and therefore more likely to experience major changes. Now, I hope this gives you a good overview of why I selected the topics that I selected that we will be covering in the rest of this lecture series. I'd like to thank you for your attention, and also please feel free to leave comments and suggestions as we continue with this lecture series. So when we finish this lecture series, for those that are here, I'll be happy to answer questions, talk about why certain topics were selected, or or not selected, and go back over any part of this presentation that you wish. Okay, that's it. Thank you for attending.